So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Right now we are on our final panel discussion, which is theme Leading Digitally, Examining Leadership, Strategy, and Execution of Digital First Business Models. Well, we are joined by Mr. Vaibhav Kumar, Vice President and Head E-Commerce and Digital Marketing, Max Life Insurance Company Limited. Vaibhav being a digital evangelist and a life insurance professional with over 11 years of experience and expertise across digital marketing, e-commerce, new product development, incubating new business lines, redefining customer journeys, and digital strategy and transformation. We also have Mr. Rajiv Arora, Global Program Head, New Normal Technology and Tools, Siemens India. Well, Rajiv has 30 plus years of experience in leading digitization initiatives with large MNCs, both in manufacturing and financial services sector. We also have Mr. Anuj Pandey, CEO, Ugro Capital Limited. Anuj is the founding member of Ugro Capital, and he's somebody who's bringing 20 years of experience from leading companies. We also have Sharat Dal, Chief Operating Officer, PolicyBazaar.com, 20 years of experience in running businesses in the internet and FMCG spaces, absolutely entrepreneurial. We also have Mr. Kamal Sharma, Digital Transformation Leader, Carrier Corporation. Kamal is somebody who's results-oriented, trilingual professional with a brilliant record and profitable performance. We also have Mr. Rohit Mansukhani, Director Digital Solutions, Johnson Controls India Private Limited. Rohit is somebody who has 2 decades of experience in sales, engineering, and product development. We also have Ms. Rajni Solomon, the Director Digital Services, PepsiCo India Holdings Private Limited. Rajni is a strategic, focused, and a business oriented IT architect with over 25 years of hands-on experience in design and building end-to-end business solutions. And this entire panel, ladies and gentlemen, is moderated by none other than Mr. Vipin Gupta, CTO and CIO, our Retail Ventures Private Limited, Warburg, Princess Company. Vipin is somebody who's got 17 years of progressive cross-industry experience in digital management, consulting, and IT experiences with focus on strategy development, digital transformation, stakeholder management, operations, and cost optimization. So thank you so much to all our eminent panelists for joining us and giving in your valuable time. With this, I'd like to pass on the live baton to our moderator to take it forward with this eminent panel. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I think, first of all, it's an honor to be hosting such an esteemed panel. We have a very accomplished and diverse set of speakers here today. And I'm sure they'll bring a very specific experience and expertise from their respective fields and organizations with regards to digital transformation. Now, today's topic that we are going to all discuss today is leading digitally, examining leadership, strategy, and execution of digital first business models. Now, in terms of context and put some flavor to this topic, I think it's not really news for anyone that digital has now become a key fundamental block or a key element of any business strategy of literally any organization. And also, I think the research shows that the digital leaders they actually experience about 1.8 times the earnings growth as compared to digital laggards. But being said that, only 30% of these digital transformation initiatives actually succeed and rest of them fail. So what does it really take to be successful? And what does these digital leaders are doing as compared to or vis-a-vis their digital laggards with respect to strategy, stakeholder onboarding, process, operating model, choice of technologies, and execution plans? Well, we may not have all the answers for you today, unfortunately, but definitely what we'll try and explore with our panelists today is that how in their respective fields and organizations they are addressing these challenges and pursuing the digital transformation agenda. And what we'll do is we'll try and sort of do it from 2 perspectives. And one side we have organization, we have Sharat from Policy Bazaar, which is a digitally native organization, and we have Anuj and Vaibhav from industries which are really high on maturity in terms of digital transformation. And vis-a-vis, we are going to then also get a perspective from traditional organizations like, I know Rajiv may not like me saying this, but Siemens, and then maybe J&J and PepsiCo. So we'll have a contrast on how these organizations are doing vis-a-vis others. So I think with that, let's get started. So Rajiv, my first question is actually to you. And my question is really, how are you approaching this whole a digital strategy and laying a business case and roadmap and stakeholder onboarding in a large organization like Siemens, and whether it's global, whether it's regional, or whether it's very focused on a BU level. So how are you really approaching this in your organization?
Thanks, Vipin, and good afternoon to all of you, to panel people and to the audience. So basically, when we look at digitalization in Siemens, we look at the holistic approach of all four critical tenets what we have it out, and that's a 4E model what we have in Siemens. It's not a technology. So our first E stands for engage. How do you really engage with customers and educate them? How can the manufacturing be transformed when you take to customers through digitalization? That's one, because Siemens being a 180-year-old plus company, we need to also transform the people from an engineering mindset to a digital mindset transformation. That's what we focus. Second is we really empower people. How do we really empower our people, the partners, the startups, whom we work with? Because we need to bring that kind of a niche, agile way of working to drive it out. We cannot follow the agile, the waterfall model what we had out. So that's two what we focus. We actually bring programs which can help transform our people to drive it out. Third is our ecosystem called Enable. How do we really make our ecosystem more stable, more robust about it? Because you may bring AR/VR technology, but you don't have an infrastructure to support it. Then how will you support it out? So build that infrastructure for a cloud platform for those technology to drive it out. And fourth, E stands for Elevate. So that's how Elevate will take the customer to a digital experience. To give an example, how in manufacturing, how can we do a remote servicing of our transformers in Siliguri area? Or how do we really do a remote inspection of a product being manufactured for Tata Steels? All that we are using it on a digitalization process. So how do we look at the strategy? Our strategy is well integrated to the business strategy. If you look at our business document, IoT, edge computing is integrated into the business strategy. It's not that it's IT is separate and business is separate. But what you right said, 30% only decision will be successful. But we believe ours is almost 90% successful because ours is a one document, not multiple document. And that has really made the whole difference for us to drive transformations. And one additional thing what we bring into the picture is cybersecurity. You move the data to a cloud platform, but if you don't have a strong cybersecurity platform for you to drive it out, especially in these pandemic time when you all are working from home, how do we really bring the zero trust security into it, both at the customer, at the partner, at the individual level to make it robust? That's been our strategy for us to drive it out and take the ownership for driving digitalization in Siemens at a global level.
Okay. So, okay, great to know that there is actually a fundamental framework and the entire digital strategy sort of weaved into the business strategy. I think that's a good starting point. Now, let me, I think I'll just maybe switch gears for Sharath. How does this work at Policy Bazaar? I mean, which is basically a digital organization. So, I mean, is there a concept of a digital strategy, or how do you really approach this whole adoption of new age technologies, and what does it really take to sort of get going in an organization like Policy Bazaar? Sharath, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think I was on mute.
Yeah.
Great. Great to be on the panel. So Vipin, actually, like you said, we are digitally native. For us, it's not really about putting out a strategy in that sense. Everything that we seek to do is really how do we digitize everything in that sense.
Right.
And for us, that's the constant endeavor. How do we make the entire customer journey from the front end of the website when the customer comes onto the website, right to the point when they actually get their policy sent across to them? Mm-hmm. How is that? How does every single piece in that get digitized and get seamless? There are many, many moving parts in this entire journey as far as insurance is concerned. Apart from in a lot of e-commerce sites, it's just the front end of it which really counts for a lot. But here, even post a person making a purchase, there's a long journey after that. At the end of the day, not too many people know, but you get an insurance policy not when you want it, but finally when the insurer chooses to give it to you. Yeah, and you satisfy their conditions for getting a policy. So there's an element of documentation. There's an element of medicals to be done. There's a physical aspect to that. So every step of the way, what we are doing constantly is looking at how do we digitize it? How do we make it absolutely seamless for the customer? Can the entire journey be handled, with him sitting at home? And one of the great learnings that we've had, and during the COVID thing, and I think our partners there have been wonderful, because they've also realized that in a situation where customers were not ready to go down to the centers for a medical, we've looked at different solutions in terms of telemedical and them being able to figure out the underwriting process in a manner that people were able to get their insurance policies even during this kind of situation. So when I really look at it, I think that for us, it's constantly chipping away. I mean, in a sense, if you think about it, Kaizen applied to manufacturing and a lot of it, but here everything is, it's a constant improvement process, whether it be in terms of consumer marketing, whether it be a product initiative. You're constantly tracking and measuring and constantly taking actions, which is improving, your action standards. So let's say it's a marketing activity. Yeah, I'm looking at, driving more clicks. I'm looking at driving down the cost of acquisition. I'm looking at, engagement on my website. I'm looking at loading the page faster. So everything is kind of measured, tracked, and there's a constant, teams are constantly working on improving things out there.
Okay. One question, I probably for me also, because I think I come from a relatively traditional sort of background. How does it work from an ROI perspective? Because one of the challenges, and I'm sure a lot of the people in the audience also will relate to that, when we try and pitch, let's say, any specific initiative, or let's say a digitization of a process, I think most of the times we're getting stuck as the ROI stage. And a lot of these new technologies like vision and AI ML, they don't really are not proven, right, as such in many contexts, and hence the ROI, concrete ROI and credible ROI becomes a very difficult challenge. So how does it work at Policybazaar? Like, is it really a benchmark, or is it more like, let's just digitize everything and whatever the improvements are, we will sort of measure later on, or how does it work?
Yeah, to some extent, that's the way we approach a lot of the new technologies. Yeah, okay. We look at it more from a consumer point of view. If it is actually easing the customer journey and making that process more seamless, then that's the direction in which we want to go in. And it's about then saying, okay, how can we do it better, do it in-house, figure out ways of making it work from an ROI point of view. So the first step is really saying that, let's look at it as to, from a consumer point of view, will it actually help in terms of reducing the time in which it, or a set of actions that the consumer needs to take for them to get a policy. If it's doing that, then let's implement it. And then, we'll figure how to actually, drive down the cost of it and making it work.
Okay. Wow. That's great. A lot of the work is already done in your case then.
I think as an organization, since we're completely digital, your mindset is that, that's the direction in which one has to go.
Okay. Well, great. I think, so Anuj, I'll come over to you. I think you have a similar background. Is it the case same with you, or are the dynamics a bit different in your case?
As Leo Tolstoy said, every happy family is alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy for their unique reasons. So the moment the target segment changes, everything changes. So I know we came into being about 2.5 years back, and we, for the sole purpose of solving the unsolved, as we call internally, of the credit gap problem for MSMEs. And MSME is a very different volume. So we are into cash flow based lending to MSMEs. And from, for easier understanding perspective, about 2 generations behind consumer lending, as far as digital thought process is concerned. So, we started thinking analog, but the process we wanted was digital. That was and that is how the whole industry was about 5 years back. And now we have been one of the pioneers. And the experience is that, the moment you start thinking digitally, the whole denominator, the whole perspective changes, and that cannot happen in isolation. So the ecosystem around your customers also has to change. Unfortunately, India Stack 2 has helped a lot. So the evolution of commercial bureau, now the account aggregation network, the stability of GSTN system. So the amount of data one gets to do a good cash flow lending for an SME customer, that is getting more robust day by day. You were talking about ROI, and I want to give you an example. I mean, lending is a very simple business. You want to improve ROI, you either increase business, you reduce OPEX, or reduce your credit cost. In all three, the moment you start thinking digitally, the paradigm completely shifts.
Really? How?
So this, the traditional problem of SME lending was that people wanted to do a touch and feel lending. The credit manager has to meet the customer. He has to have a feel of the premise, what kind of business is happening. And now, he is forced to look at data and what data is telling. Now, this transformation, the sooner it becomes, the better it will be. Okay. So the journey hence has been to, keep improving the results, basis the data which you're getting, and then comparing it with your physical experiences. So as a industry, we are at that stage. But I think in about next 1 or 2, 3 years, I mean, it is writing, very, very clear. From productivity perspective and from accuracy of lending perspective, there is no other way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, good point. Moving on, I will come to you, Vaibhav. I think Max Life Insurance probably, I think is maybe, I don't know if you may permit, I'll call it a bit of a hybrid setup, which is obviously online as well as have an offline model as well. How does, while putting all this together, how does it work from a stakeholder management and stakeholder onboarding perspective? Because at least in my experience, that seems to be one of the major blockers before you start the execution. So how do you approach that in your organization?
Thank you, Vipin. A very good evening to all the panelists. Absolute pleasure being here. So, Vipin, frankly, while digital strategy is a very powerful word, let me try and reframe from that and let me address a smaller part of business case and roadmap. Let me try. Because, within the ambit of digital strategy, in my past experience, acquisition is usually an easier business case. It's the conversion and retention that usually become challenging. So really broadly, 3 large thematics for us, Vipin, the why of business or customer, that's the most critical. The why has to be very clear. In the current era, I think you do not really need to sell digital strategy. I mean, if you have to sell digital strategy in your organization, my view is you're in the wrong organization.
Good one.
No, because there is no, I don't think there is any CEO saying, explain to me why do we need to go digital. I don't think. So but the benefit statement has to be really sharp and aligned to the org strategy. Irrespective of the impact, if it is not aligned to the large org strategy, directly or indirectly, you will always have hurdles. Surely have hurdles at demand management level, at CFO level, at finance controller level. So let me give you an example. For most of the traditional organization, investing in infrastructure and technology to improve page load time or user experience. Classic use case. Everyone wants to do it. But there's always a challenge. सुनने में ठीक लगता है, लेकिन जब करने के टाइम पैसे मांगते हो, तो you seem to have different reactions all the time, right? So really, I'll tell you how we kind of would have approached it. Start strategy statement, like let's say customer obsession is an org strategy statement. To a statement of purpose, like provide our customers with superior experience while engaging with all our assets, right? Well, that is what we want to do. Move below to an output measure like transaction NPS or relationship NPS. Then move towards an input MOS like page load time, DOM size, Google page speed score, and then share a detailed use case with both input and output MOS. Put your money where your mouth is, and share an industry benchmark. I'm telling you, nothing excites leaders like rankings. Just show them that, from here. And you have to be smart about it. But really, beyond the why, the question that you specifically asked, collaboration. No one can whistle a symphony, and it has to take an orchestra to play it. Get your allies in place. It is very, very important to discover, the functional leaders who have the outcome or that KPI, directly or indirectly in their goal sheets. And I'm telling you, there are many. There are many who are not able to impact their KPIs, but have it in their goal scorecard. Find them out, hunt them, get them on board at ideation stage, convince them to co-sponsor, in principle, if not in OPEX, maybe not on CapEx, but get them to, sponsor this at the principal stage. Cross-functional linkages in the goal sheet is very, very critical. A reality, So away from that, I've always, wondered, at least at Max Life, we have a great practice, where all functional leaders actually take a printout of their goal sheets and transparently place it on a board where everyone can, critique it or give feedback through a pen. so that all those missing elements, are incorporated. You can't be in a year where you suddenly discover ki yaar ye to meri topic. Guess what? You actually depend on that. So that's the collaboration big to execution.
No, very interesting points actually. Very interesting point.
And review and reporting bada zaruri hai yaar, bahut zaruri hai.
Okay.
Always, while making business cases, always remember this is not the last business case. You will be going back 3 months later with another business case. So if you think it's not a hit and run, right? So review progress, share sharp updates on execution as well as MOS. And most importantly, what I've realized now, over experience, have at least 2 quick wins yaar. 60 din mein 2 quick win must have. Otherwise, they might not be technologically smart, but have those 2 quick wins quickly visibilized. So someone sitting in that room central chair knows ki kuch ho raha hai yaar.
Okay. No, very valid points. And I think I really love the point you made around Symphony, because I think I feel that's the crux of it. I think in a way, because in my experience, unless there is a cross-functional linkages of KPIs and digital outputs, I don't think any kind of digital transformation can be successful. So I think very valid points made. Rohit, I'll come to you. Any add-on comments on this, or Kamal, from your perspective, like how are you approaching this whole stakeholder onboarding and alignment in your organization with regards to digital?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks. Good evening, everyone. So this is again a very diversified, very interesting conversation. So again, I represent a company called Johnson Controls. We are in the building automation, building space, very traditional industrial company, 100+ year old of products and services that we've been doing. And again, for us, it's not that straightforward. It's not like road to digital is not very clear cut and identical for everyone. All of our customers are very different. But again, for us, what we try to help our customers understand, building operators and typically who own buildings, is putting a digital overlay on top of a legacy system is much easier than actually going and redoing a complete system, right? So from a legacy standpoint, we kind of position that. And I just take Webup's point on quick win. We call it POC in our world. Show some data ingestion coming into the platform, show them a little bit of and so that the customers have that confidence and comfort. So that's my initial comments that we face in our industry, which we are trying to transform from very traditional to digital.
Okay. Now that's great. I think fair point. And I think you mentioned actually legacy, and I have a question with that. Maybe Kamal, I'll put to you that question in terms of how are you sort of approaching or are you factoring in the entire sort of integration with the legacy systems, or with regards to scalability and of this? How do you factor that in your strategy and execution plan?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. And thanks for the question. And it is very apt question for us right now. So we also are a very close sibling for Rohit's company organization, JCI. We are also 100-year-old company, pretty diversified, pretty large in operations. That brings us a lot of legacy, systems and ecosystem around it. But the way we look at it is more from the mindset perspective, right? Before applying any kind of digital strategy, it's important that we bring it on to the people, right? And that fabric, what we are trying to develop, which is riding on digital, will always be driven by people, right? So cultivating that mindset, nurturing those skills, talent in the organization is very crucial for us. And we have been, very aligned on that with respect to our overall org strategy. In my opinion, I think when it comes to legacy systems and overall, I'm talking about from the industry perspective, what I have seen, observed, learned, unlearned from the industry leaders as well as peers, friends, that, definitely coming to digital strategy, legacy always play a critical role blocker in many areas, right? What forward-looking digital leaders are doing right now, they convert that into opportunity, right? It's very easy. What those legacy ecosystems are driving you as a value on table, right? And then you bring your perspective on the change, what you're trying to bring using the digital fabric into the organization, and show them its value, right? And fortunately, in few of the areas, it's very easy to show that transformation journey, the change in perception coming out of the digital strategy, what you want to implement, adopt, right? And as Weber was mentioning that explaining and getting a buy-in on digital is no longer, what you call a tough task, right? Because everybody is some or other way is pretty literate on digital aspect of it, right? But where we don't get the importance is how do you show the value, right? Because if your investments, be it capex, opex, doesn't bring a value on table, nobody is going to take you seriously, right? So you have to bring those perspective on the table and drive it through the entire leadership. And as I just to conclude the entire my thoughts, I'm a very strong believer in that if you have the right people, you will have the right digital strategy, starting from ideation to execution. And yeah.
Okay. No, valid point, and we'll touch on a little bit more detail on the people aspect during the next part of the conversation. But before I move forward, Rajni, any comments you would like to add? Obviously, you are part of PepsiCo, very large, sort of diverse group. Any comments around digital strategy, onboarding, and how you are approaching the execution in terms of your area of work at PepsiCo?
Yeah, and I think for us, since it's a very old company in many countries and many products, I think one of the things that we have been really focusing a lot on lately is actually I should say three things. One is a whole focus on data and analytics, to be able to kind of get that whole strategic value of data. The second thing, we are focusing a lot on cloud migration, on anything that is legacy. If we can bring it to cloud, make it scalable, or get rid of it. Whatever we can move to better solutions, just move it. So we have that whole culture of innovation. So any person who has better ideas to move, we have that platform to share and voice and work through those. So that is one big advantage of even in this large company, we have that platform available to us. And the last thing that we work a lot on is whole DevSecOps thing. Like Weber, you mentioned that quick wins. We have to have that quickly changing. I mean, think about our company, PepsiCo, constantly changing new products, new customers that if you don't change, you lose out. I mean, there is nothing, nothing more simple than that. And it is a way of life. Digital transformation is way of every company now.
Okay. No, thank you very much for your comments. And I think I'll dig deeper on one topic you talked about. I think you talked about data and analytics. I just wanted to maybe dig deeper because, again, as we talked about digital transformation, and I think a couple of our panelists mentioned about CEO sort of already onboarded on that we have to be digital. Similarly, data, in my experience, also is becoming that theme that everybody, sort of, obviously, it's a very cliche statement that data is a new oil. And I think everybody understands that. But I just want to dig deeper in terms of at PepsiCo, how are you really approaching this? Is there because there's a huge part of the value chain, right? And you could do so much with data in various aspects. How are you really approaching it in terms of, structuring it, making sure you reach the right use cases first? So tell me more about, data and analytics at PepsiCo. How is it all working?
So how we have set up is we have multiple platforms on data digitalization. We have IoT, we have automated innovation, we have innovation platforms, all those things on the technology side. So we have like a central governing body around those, what tools, technologies we use, where we have to use data lake, all those good things. So all governance happens globally. So we have global platforms, global teams decide that no matter which sector wants to use it. But then on the business side, we have this whole CDO, what we call data and analytics, business data and analytics groups, who is driving the stewardship program. So you have your data stewards who are governing the business side of data, where what should fit. And
but sorry to interrupt you, but is it across the value chain, or is it like entire PepsiCo across value chain, or is it by, let's say, supply chain and manufacturing, or by a business unit?
We have both. So we have actually both. So we have what we have at a global level, some business functions that are defined, and then what we call sector level. You know, we could have APAC and AMESA, we could have Europe and LATAM and all that. So we define things at both the levels. We have given, so there is authority on each level, because if you kind of try to do everything global, you will become slow, your agility will go. Right, you have to have that balance on where you have to have your standards and where you want that autonomous governance given to each market, each sector to go faster. Right, so we have both, and from the business perspective, what we do is we have the whole data stewardship program that drives the master data on our standards, on packaging, build your governance around everything, your materials, your quality, everything. So that's how we have it structured. Yeah.
Interesting. Rajiv, how does it, probably the organization structure is quite similar to PepsiCo. So Rajiv, do you want to shed some light on how the data, or maybe even broader, how the overall emerging technology adoption is happening at Siemens and in this case?
Oh, thanks, Vipin. And really a great question. Just to add what Rajnish shared, that we have divided our study into two parts, because we are more of a B2B company where we really supply to other people. So in our business, we have our own IIoT platform, industrial IoT platform called MindSphere. And that is very much well integrated in the overall value chain, starting from picking up an order to fulfilling an order and then supporting it out, entire value chain of a business, which includes the supply chain in between also. So we have to capture the data. And what we are now doing, we are doing a predictive analysis of it and telling a customer where they could fail. To very give example, that if you look at Audis and the Mercedes of the world, all that entire automobile sector is getting to a predictive healing thing, that your gearbox is going to fail, why you do that? So we're really working on that and going step beyond that. And we have a similar structure with the chief data officer, with those stewards across all value chain of the businesses.
Okay.
On a B2C side, which is something in a pilot phase for us right now, is we are also looking at our own customers, because since we're getting to a more of a new normal mode right now, if like Vipin is sitting in a remote part of the world and his graphic card is going to get damaged, so we have also installed a particular tool which will give you a predictive healing of your laptop and devices, and give you alerts and raise the tickets on its own. So we really capture data that how much Vipin is how he's using his device, and how can we do helping out. And also we are working on one step beyond that. If Vipin is, example, sorry to use a name of yours, if Vipin is sitting on a seat for more than 4 hours, he would get an alert, take a break, you should be healthy. So we're really to go into that data. So that's how we're really managing the whole ecosystem of B2B and B2C.
So Rajiv, I think that's absolutely amazing, the level of granularity that the organization is going. I think my just one forward question on that would be, how are you demonstrating the return on investment on these things? So it's always great to have more granular view, but really, how is it impacting the bottom line or the top line? How do you measure that?
See, we definitely measure that very strongly. Being a Siemens, a pretty old German engineering organization, that's something is the blood of this ecosystem of ours. But the good part is we have really brought that change in our mindset, that don't look at ROI in a period of next 12 to 18 months. This ROI will come a period of 5 years, 6 years. And that ROI is helping us out, because what we are thinking is future. Because if you look at Siemens, predominantly of a hardcore manufacturing organization, is going to we are transforming ourselves to a service organization.
Right.
If you're going to transform a manufacturing to service organization, you need to capture data and then use the data for healing a customer. That's how we are driving it out to take transformation.
Okay. Very interesting. Very good. Good to know that ROI's timelines are 5 to 6 years. I normally.
Because if you look at, because our products are like large transformers. The transformer has a life of 25 years. Right. We can't do that in 18 months. You can't get an ROI on that topic. But compared to what Sharath has it in a policy, which is more of B2C, yes, you require that. But we have a long term. Like if you look at all the metros or tubes of London, now that ROI can't be done in next 18 months. It has to be over next 25 years. So we look at from that point of view to transformation.
Okay, very interesting. Moving on to just changing the angle a little bit. Again, coming back to you, Sharath, on this. I think, again, like you are a digitally native organization, and you said you basically pick up everything which sort of impacts the customer experience. And I'm sure while we don't see it, there is a heavy usage of data, AI, ML, in the, while a customer buys the, policy on your platform. So what is the next level for you? Like, where are you headed? Because I think in my experience, where I come from, I think a lot of organizations, even in retail, are still sort of putting the data warehouses, getting their sort of head around customer analytics, SVOC, and moving from just doing basic analytics to maybe prescriptive, or I think predictive is still like 2-3 steps away. So what is the next sort of level for you, Sharath, on this?
So actually, from our perspective, one of the things that we have done is really putting that, stitching together the different customer touch points and getting a one view of the customer. Because if you see the customer comes to our website, maybe visits the app, makes a selection of a product on the search result out there, calls up the call center, responds to an email. So there are various touch points, and how do I stitch that together? I think that's the basic framework of getting the data in place. And I think once you have that data piece in place in terms of the customer data platform or data lake, that's when you can start really looking at saying, how do I personalize my offerings? One, for this customer, so that the likelihood of their conversion is higher. Number two is also being able to understand the propensity of the customer to buy. And therefore, which segments does one need to target and prioritize in terms of whether it be customer outreach or marketing. Right. And the third aspect is, when and how to best reach this customer. I think, from a marketing perspective today, it's extremely challenging to actually find the customer because there are, the media landscape is so fragmented that it's very, very difficult to actually reach this customer. And one of the things that, having a single view of the customer and being able to, understand that customer better is also to figure out, what's the best way to reach them. Right. Is it an email, or is it actually a WhatsApp message, or is it, a call out to the customer? What's the best time? How many days before the renewal should I actually call so that the customer is likely to buy, and things like that. So there's a lot of work in that space, which is really there, which is the direction in which, we're headed. Okay. Essentially being able to identify, whom to target and prioritize.
And this is all like, are you using certain, like, I know machine learning and AI seems to be very cliche, but like, is it all happening through like human interventions, or is it like quite a lot of algorithmic, APIs?
So we have a data science team and an AI ML team in-house, which is actually really building out a lot of this stuff in there. Initially it was a lot, when we started out on this journey, it was a lot more manual and more of, manually putting it together, but it's impossible to do at scale. And one of the things in terms of creating the data platform is actually being able to then operate a lot of these algorithms and then, make it much more valuable in terms of insights and ability to target these customers.
Okay. I think there is a customer question, so I'll just weave in it in this discussion only, maybe more relevant to you, Sharath. I think the question is, given now the privacy norms that are in place, and I think you talked about, how to reach the customers at the right time and by what channel. Yeah. Do you think the privacy sort of creates a bit of a more, closed space, or narrows the approaches that you can use, or is that?
See, I think it's a fact of life. I think customers are definitely much, much more choosy in terms of, whether they like to be targeted or not targeted, and how they would like to be targeted. And therefore, as an organization, it's important to be cognizant of that. And actually, I think as a brand as well, going forward, one has to be cognizant of the fact that many customers will not want you to reach out to them, and you really need to play within the rules that the customer sets in that sense. Okay. And I think that's where a richer insight into the customer by being able to stitch together various views of that customer through the different interactions that you have will actually enable one from a marketing perspective to reach this customer at the right time, at a time when the customer really wants to be, contacted.
Okay. Okay. I'll just quickly move on to, I think we are running short on time also. We'll just move to Vaibhav. Any comments from your side on this topic, like in terms of the insurance space, again, which is already very, very data heavy and already, I'm sure, a lot of sophisticated use of data. Where are you headed in your journey in terms of data or adoption of all these newer technologies in the organization?
Sure, Vipin. So we really still are on the journey of digital maturity, Vipin, in this space. I won't completely agree on being very heavy data centric yet.
Okay.
The intent is there. I think within the B2C segment, I can tell you that, so far, as Sharath also pointed out, we have leveraged data and signals for advertising optimization, which is digital advertising optimization.
Okay.
Creating intuitive interception journeys, superior onboarding and underwriting. That's pretty much the scope in which we have so far invested heavily. Next phase for us really, will mean capturing the non-digital signals into our optimization signal, like we have the call center disposition, the talk time. See, for a digital advertiser, the life is about where did the customer come from? Who is the customer in terms of demogs? And what did the customer do? So customer come from, thanks to Google's, Facebook, Amazon of the world, it's very easy to identify, right?
Right.
The customer is really, I think, being the category that we are in, we have the right to ask questions. So reasonably rich, right? Now, what did the customer do? So far, a large amount of energy is invested in what did the customer do on the platform? While what customer doesn't do on the platform is what gets really, locked somewhere. So that data and sending it back to the optimization signals is really the one big one that we are chasing for next year. Creative sequencing is a big one for us. In our category, it takes at least 4 to 5 advertising intercepts before a customer can get deeper into our funnel. So creative sequencing is very, very critical. What you told him the first time versus when you brought him into the funnel last time, it's very, very important to those to be consistent. We've realized that. So, and really, the mother metric is moving from business value to eventually someday, I hope, customer lifetime value.
That's the holy grail, no?
That's the holy grail. But really, that really is the North Star. If somehow, if you can even put a single algorithm in the next 5 years, I'll be like...
I know. It's a holy grail, as I said. Okay. I think we just have a few minutes left. So I'll just want to touch upon one more topic before we conclude, and I'll make it very quick. Because I think it's also a very key element of the entire digital transformation. What about the skills? And maybe we can go around the table quickly. What is your sort of focus in terms of the skill sets that you are engaging in or hiring in your organization with regards to digital currently? Anyone can start. Vaibhav, we can start from you as well.
Yeah, sure. So Vipin, while there are hard skills that are there, I am a big believer that there is this collaboration skill, and it's a soft skill. It's not something that it has to be, which I think is extremely critical. In my experience, while the business owns execution, and accountability, there is this interesting troika, as I called it, Trimurti of the product manager, the engineer, and the UX lead. Troika, when this comes together alive in a room, right? That is when really magic happens, in my experience. So, hard skills of all the MarTech tools that we try and use, try and have a simple platform is what my recommendation is, at least the ones who start off or are in the midway of the journey. Don't try and have complex platforms. The cost of the skill for these complex platforms is extremely prohibitive. So better to have a simpler platform, a platform which is more open source when you start off your journey, really. But this soft skill piece of collaboration is what at least I emphasize a lot on with my team.
Yeah, I think that's a very well-made point. Anuj, what's your view on this?
So, we are now living in an age where everyone in the organization will have to believe that they are part of a zero data loss architecture. And just by saying that I would do online versus offline doesn't help everyone. I mean, it's not about sales, marketing, or the analytics people. Everyone will have to believe that they have a role to play in data which can be gathered and which can be later used in machine learning. So, and the moment you start, and while hiring, I look at that primarily.
Interesting.
And although it doesn't sound good because I am also on the wrong side of 40 now, but younger people are more amenable to this. older people find it very difficult to get this. So anything which you do and with the customer, that data has to be captured, which can eventually be used productively. This message has to be drilled through. Otherwise, we are 2.5-year-old organization. We are generating 10 GB data per day.
Wow.
That is the kind of data. So there is so much data available, so much things which are happening. I mean, GST, account aggregation, bank statements, etc. So, but every data of the customer eventually will get used, and that is where how the organization will have to evolve.
That's very interesting, actually. Yeah, no, I think that's a great approach, and I'm sure in the audience, otherwise your comment could have reactions also. If we were in a physical room about the age and 40, I don't know how many on this panel are above 40, but definitely I am. So, anyways, that's yeah. So, Kamal, any of the comments from you inside in terms of the skills that we talked about?
Yeah, definitely. That's a topic of my deep interest, as well as one of the core responsibility. So at Career, I'm responsible for setting up the Digital Capability Center in India. Right, it's one of the world's biggest digital capability center, which we are going to establish. The journey has started 2 years back. So how do we look at it is very interesting. So one thing, we got away with traditional and conventional approach. We thought to drive it, based on programs, what we are going to run from India. And we went towards the typical niche digital programs to be started from India. You talk about cyber, you talk about analytics automation, you talk about data science, all those programs we focused upon. The other thing is, my approach to it is very clear. We don't want to find the best talent in the market. We want to find the talent which is best fit to my culture, which is best fit to my org needs, who's aligned to more our way of thinking, our way of values, right? Because that will help us to drive and achieve our mission and overall growth we are trying to achieve.
Right.
Now, with all these statements, this also becomes very important in this so competitive and fierce, fast-moving market. How do you bring the talent on board? Where do you look at, and how do you ensure that these are the right folks to be incubated into your organization? Mm-hmm. That's where we continue to do post-hiring reviews. We continue to develop and re-engineer our talent acquisition framework, our cultural framework, and ensure that we stay competitively ahead in the market and develop the India Hub as one of the larger contributor to overall digital transformation strategy, what we have at Career.
Okay. Rohit, any concluding comments, like any final comments from you on this topic?
Absolutely. I mean, coming from, a heavy industrial side, I also feel the domain contextualization is very critical, right? So, of course, you need all of the digital skill sets, the competencies that I think some of the other panelists have talked about. But also, when we come from this part of the world, in terms of, heavy industry, heavy engineering, the domain understanding, the domain contextualization is extremely important.
Okay.
If you can't connect the dots, then it's very difficult.
Makes sense.
I think one thing that I would like to add out here is that at least from a totally, digital kind of thing, while the skills as far as digital is concerned, really attitude, and it's all about actually the fact that there is a lot of chaos in organizations like us, because it's not that we've got a strategy which is cast in stone. We are very quick to measure and change. We do something, we measure, and 3 days later say, okay, bugger it, it's not working, let's turn it around completely. So I think people need to be okay with that kind of unstructured environment and thinking, and I think that's another thing that we really look for, to be able to thrive in that kind of unstructured environment.
Okay.
Vipin, just to add what Sharath and everybody said,
absolutely.
And let me summarize. Maybe I can summarize the whole thing on what we look forward.
Great.
We don't look for technology and tools. We look for whether he or she is more collaborative and have synergy to work in our culture.
Okay.
Second, does he have a design thinking approach? Because That's critical for us because the data will all this capture, does you can think accordingly or not. And third, easy, more adaptable. What Sharad said, adaptable to a change. The change can happen every day. In a company like Siemens, we also have a change every day. How do you drive that? So if any person has this kind of a key skills, he can learn technology. Because technology for me can be in a class.
Right.
But these skills can't be taught in a classrooms.
No, I completely agree with you. I think having the right problem solving and the approach and the cultural mindset of agility, as Sharad talked about, I think definitely are the key ones. And I won't mind, I know talking about 40 plus, so I'll leave that out for the conversation for now. But anyway, so one, I think I think we're going to conclude now. Before we do that, I'll just give, 10, maybe 20 seconds to each panelist, one liner or one line of insight for the audience about digital transformation. And maybe with Rajni, we can start with you.
Yeah, I just want to say, this whole digital transformation, it is not one person's responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility to engage, embrace, and adopt new ways of working.
Okay. Rohit?
I think from my perspective, look at how can this essentially help to improve the overall attractiveness of the enterprise, right? Whether it's your organization or your customer. So how do we be more relevant, right?
Okay. Kamal?
I think how I look at it is first, we should keep it aligned to overall organization, strategy. Second thing, most important thing is keep measuring it. How much you are, succeeding in your world strategy. It should be very agile and flexible. If you see, there are improvements needed, do it fast.
Okay. Anuj?
Whenever someone is getting stuck, think about customer. Invariably, thinking digitally helps customer.
Interesting. Okay, very good. Vaibhav?
Really spend disproportionate time on the why. Disproportionate time. That is the one that will actually flow you through. In my experience, all business cases and final execution never match. Only the scorecard matches eventually.
Okay.
It turns out to be completely different from what. So just focus on the why. That's what matters.
Sharad, and then finally Rajiv. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is, measure everything that you do, and then, adapt immediately to that, to what those numbers are telling you. And the second thing is, something that an old boss of mine said, which was, speed wins. Yeah, I think being agile is critical.
Right. Rajiv, last comment.
Okay, you're fine. Thanks for that. So when I look at transformation, I look at the holistic approach of customers, people, and the technology in an agile way.
Okay, great. So I think I'll just, I think thank you very much, and absolutely fantastic insights. And I also had a lot to learn, whether we talked about, I think Sharad's comments around, adopt anything that, impacts customer experience, having right framework in place, weaving the business and digital strategy for the organization, whether it's acting like a symphony. I think that's a great word I'll take back from Vaibhav. And I think this whole framework around, as Vaibhav said, disproportionate time around why, the cross-functional linkages of KPIs, around the skills, around best fit, the cultural context, the domain, the attitude. And I think wonderfully, Anuj mentioned around having a zero data loss strategy. So I think these are fairly, I would say, very strategic and interesting insights from the panel. So I hope in the audience, you had a great time listening to all the esteemed panelists. I think I only had one question on the chat, which I think I've already addressed. Any other questions, or Bhavna, can we close or conclude the session?
No. There aren't any further questions, but we'd really like to thank you for your time. Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Great talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.